bad news.
What?
The Dacia Sandero. It's delayed.
Oh no! Anyway, last week...
Stellaris Cosmic Storms DLC has just released, but should you buy it? In this video, we will review the features of this new DLC for Stellaris, we'll look at what works, what doesn't work, and try to help you answer the question, should you buy it? Let's go through exactly what this new DLC contains. First up, we have a new origin, the Storm Chasers. This is going to let you dive headfirst into all of the new storm-based mechanics because it will give you a situation that spawns a storm in the very early years of your game. Your leaders will get these Storm Rider traits, which do different things for different leader classes and are only in effect when that particular leader is within a cosmic storm. On top of that, you'll get a whole host of bonuses to storm technology research options, you'll be more likely to get them, and some more unity from storm buildings on your planet. You'll also start the game with the weather forecasting map mode, which is the brand new map mode that everyone will get access to once they've researched cosmic weather models technology. This new map mode lets you see where your storm attraction and repulsion areas are on the galaxy, and also, if your technology level is high enough, where the predicted path of each storm is going to be. Then we've got 3 new civics. 2 of these civics are entirely storm focused. Storm Devotion gives you the Storm Touched trait on all of your pops, which will mean when you are within a storm, that pop gets 10% more resources from jobs and minus 10% amenities usage. You can combine this effect with other modifiers to reduce the negative impacts of storms and thus make storms a little bit better for you. You'll also get the Storm Summoning Theater, which is another storm building that you can put on your planet, granting you a couple of storm dancers that produce slightly more unity but slightly fewer amenities than regular Holo Theater workers. Astrometeorology is the materialist version of Storm Devotion. This one is going to grant you the Astrometeorology Lab, which increases your job output whenever an environmental effect is present in the system. That also includes static effects like nebulas, so this one could actually be rather tasty for you. Last but by absolutely no means least, we have the Planetscaper Civic. This is the complete opposite to Environmentalist. You're going to want to remove every single blocker from every world. In fact, every natural blocker that you keep will give you quite a nasty debuff to pop growth speed, resources from jobs, and increase your pop upkeep. But once you get rid of all of those blockers, you'll get some healthy bonuses here to resources, pop growth speed, and a reduction in pop upkeep everywhere. You won't be able to take Mastery of Nature as an Ascension perk, but you can instead take the Cultivated Worldscaping Planetary Decision, which in some ways is better, giving you a larger increase to your maximum resource district and 1 extra maximum district at the cost of some habitability. There's also a brand new Ascension perk, Galactic Weather Control. This one allows your science ships to generate cosmic storms by manipulating a system star. If you have cloaking technology, this does mean you can create a storm inside another empire's borders. Initiating the Galactic Storm will give you an event that lets you choose what type of storm you will be generating as well. Let's not forget, one of these storm types will also increase your cloaking and allow you to fly through closed borders. So this could be a tactical advantage for you. Speaking of storms, there are now 8 new storm types. Each storm type has a different effect, from our particle storms to gravity storms, all the way up to terrifying nexus storms. Generally, the base effect of all of these storms is identical. It's going to give you monthly planetary devastation of plus 0.2 per month on every planet in the affected area, an increase to emergency FTL damage, and then everything on top of that is different depending on the type of storm. This magnetic storm, for example, increases your station upkeep and makes your planetary build speed slower, but you are getting minus 200% metallurgist upkeep, so your metallurgists are almost free. We also have 2 new chains of galactic resolutions for the galactic community, which you can dive into. On top of that, we've got 2 new precursors and 2 new relics, new events, new anomalies, new planetary deposits modifiers, and more anomalies following a storm's aftermath, on top of a host of new storm-related technologies. So what do I like and what don't I like about the new DLC Cosmic Storm? Well, first I'd like to talk about the visuals. These storms are really very beautiful to look at in-game if you actually decide to zoom down to that level. If you manage to have a fight or a battle in a system with a storm, it's going to look more beautiful than the normal game. Visually, this DLC adds a lot to the map and to individual systems. I'm also happy to report that from a mechanical perspective, these storms generally will not wreck your empire. The monthly devastation that is added is relatively low, plus 0.2 per month, and storms tend to move on relatively quickly, only lingering on a single planet for a few years at most. This means your devastation probably won't go higher than 5 to 10%, even without modifiers to reduce the negative effects of storms. Some of these storms also have quite helpful positive effects. However, as mentioned before, the storms generally move on relatively quickly from a gameplay perspective, so you'll only get those positive effects for a few years. You cannot build your entire economy around these storms. In the game settings, you also have sliders to influence how likely storms are going to be to form in the early, mid, and end game, and the maximum number of naturally occurring storms that you can see through each of those phases. You can, if you want to, turn off storms during any portion of the game, or you can turn them off altogether. You may still see the odd storm or two from a relic or from some technology. However, there will be no naturally occurring storms if you set your game up this way. Also, the new Planetscaper Civic is pretty fun. It's a cool little addition to the game. I like the theme of it, and I like the direction it moves in. Now let's talk about what I think doesn't really work so well. The storms themselves, to me, have generally felt like a bit of a nuisance, but something I could mostly ignore if I wanted to. Occasionally, I may need to move a fleet around so they don't get damaged by a storm that causes some damage to my ships. While some storms do have some very harsh negative modifiers like minus 50 or 60% to population growth, those modifiers only affect you for a couple of years, so at worst you're looking at losing a quarter to half a pop per planet. Nothing here is going to destroy your empire, but it's also, on the flip side, not going to massively benefit your empire usually, because most of the modifiers here are so time limited. Some of the planetary deposits that spawn in after a storm passes through can be very, very positive, but some are also just a bit annoying. A planet that you were building up to be one type of world may no longer be very good at producing whatever your specialization was before, or suddenly much better at producing something else. The attraction and repulsion system does have some effect on how attracted or repulsed the storms are. However, you can't generally lock a storm down and keep it over your empire if that's something you want. If you're becoming a storm chaser, if you are getting lots of bonuses from being in a storm, I've not really found it's possible to get a permanent storm over my capital and over most of my planets, which is what I would like to aim for with this origin. Unless I turn my storm spawning numbers up to the maximum and end up with a galaxy full of constant storms, I can, for the most part, ignore storms altogether. And I think that might be the problem with this DLC. If the main feature, the storms, is something that you can mostly just ignore and forget about, is it really worth the purchase for you? It does add another layer to the game. There is interactivity and fun things you can do with storms, but this is already a very complex game with lots of layers that we have to pay attention to right now. If you want even more complexity for complexity's sake, then go out and get this DLC. However, if you're not looking to add another level of complication to the Stellaris experience, this probably isn't the DLC for you. And if you don't want to have lots of space weather, let's not forget storms were one of the most hated mid-game events before this DLC came out, you are in luck. As of this patch, if you do not have this DLC enabled, you will never get any space storms. You won't get the new space storms or the old space storms from before patch 3.13. Overall, I think my advice here is, if you're into the theme, if you want to have storms, go out and get this DLC. On the other hand, if you're on the fence, if you're not sure, probably leave it and instead go out and purchase a DLC you don't already have, possibly something like The Machine Age, which is double the price, but will have a massive impact on your gameplay experience. If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see me playing some Stellaris Cosmic Storms because you still can't make up your mind, then click the video on screen now.